Hi guys, Mr. Prince. I just killed a spider like the size of a silver dollar. It was disgusting. It was one of those where you grab a tissue and you get close to it and you're like, ugh, I think I need a paper towel. I got a paper towel and I saw it because my cat was staring at it. And I'm like, what are you looking at? Anyways, I got the paper towel. I go up there and I grab it. And usually I try to let him out. Like I'm the kind of guy that I don't want to like end sentient life. I try to like grab him, put him in a cup, let him outside. But this sucker was huge, and he looked very fast. There's no way I was gonna get him out successfully. So I had to commit insect murder, kill a sentient being. Anyways, I got it in the paper towel. It was disgusting, and I was like, I better end his suffering. So he squeezed the paper towel and it made a little pop. Oh god, it was gross. Sorry. Welcome to psychology. I'm gonna teach you something today. Isn't that a great intro to this class? Anyways, it feels weird that our first little lesson, if you will, is a recorded thing. But don't worry, you're my one and only psych class, so you're who I'm making this for. Okay, got the adrenaline out of my body. Got the adrenaline out of my body. Here we go. Why are we looking at this syllabus? Let me tell you. I want to go down here, handy dandy syllabus. You all have access to this. It's in classroom resources. We are going to start talking about this. We have 6 learning targets. Like I said, instead of going breadth, we're going depth. You can make fun of how I said that first word later when you see me in person, or you could stare at me and not say a word when we're in a Google Meet. Either's fine with me. I can describe what psychology is and the 6 perspectives of psychology. All right, you can make fun of me for 2 words I said wrong. Anyways, we're just kind of going over the first half. What is psychology? That's what we're going to do today. 6%. Oh my God, 3 words. Perspectives. That's going to be really fun. Usually this class is a bunch of activities and we do stuff in person, and that's why the class is great. Everyone always talks about it. It's like, take psychology. We can't really do that with this online stuff. I'm sorry. But I'm going to try my best to translate it into something a little more entertaining. Also, usually we give you guys like learning target guides. I'm sure you've experienced that at some point in high school. A learning target guide, like a note-taking guide. For all intents and purposes, this class, y'all have a Google Doc, on one half of your screen and this video on the other half, or maybe you like the physical pencil and paper. You're putting more effort in, and maybe this is something we'll touch on in psych, but because you're putting more concerted effort in by like moving your hands in a certain way, you'll remember it better. Hey, memory is a unit here, right there. So maybe we'll talk about that. That's a really good example. Anyways, whatever you want to do to take notes, do it. We're not taking multiple choice finals, so it's not like that traditional cram and slam. I'll post slides. You always have all the resources at your disposal. I'm not trying to trick you ever. Give you, a longer project, and then you can, you'll get like a whole day to do a summative. You're not like, oh, here's an hour, get this done. I just want to calm some nerves about that. I had one question about that, about what a longer assignment looks like. I'm going to spend Tuesday in our meet session going over some questions. I took those questionnaires you did very seriously. I'm reading through all of them. I have 100 students right now, so it just takes me a while to get through all that stuff. Anyways, I appreciate your responses on that. It helps me a lot as a teacher, and it'll in turn help you being a student of this teacher. But one of the questions was, what does a longer assignment look like, or a project? I will give you examples in the future. We're still translating our old tests to something more interactive, but I've had it in the past. So last trimester when I taught psych, we'd have like multiple short answer questions, maybe some hypotheticals. So like a perspective of psychology we'll go over later. How would a biological psychologist treat this patient with these symptoms, right? What would they think the root cause of this particular problem for this patient is? So it could be short answers like that, or if we can come up with a really awesome project, make it a little more fun, more like student choice in it, I would prefer that. Anyways, sorry for boring you off. Let's get through this. Learning target 1. So I can describe psychology and the 6 I can describe what psychology is and the 6 perspectives of psychology. Ooh, said it right. Haha. Before we begin, I would like you guys to open your minds a little bit. What that means is if you just sit here listening to me, you're not going to learn a lot. I need you guys to put in a little bit of effort. So in this beautiful ed puzzle I've created for you, just for you, my wonderful psych class, before we start our journey through the mind, in your words, what do you think we study in psychology? What do you think we study in psychology? I'll give you a second. Okay, I'm going to give you the formal definition of psychology and what we study, but it's so much more than a formal definition, as with many things in life. What is psychology? I'm going to define it for you. First part of psychology is psych, the mind. And I could give you a little fun history, but when psychology was quote unquote created, it was the study of the soul. But we have made great strides into making this a fully fledged science discourse, academic subject. Okay? So the first part is the mind, psych, and ology. You hear ology in a lot of things. It's the study of. So it's the study of the mind. More specifically, we like to say in psychology, we study behavior and mental processes. So we can only really glean people's, how should we say this, incentives or their reasoning by the way they act. And the way they act could be the way they talk, the things they do. If somebody was to sit silently and never say or do a thing, we could not study psychology. Might be able to study our own psychology, but it's a very comparative process as well. We need to compare it to others. All right. So this is really a combination of a few things. Social studies, that's why this is a social studies elective. We're talking about people. It's a science because we have a method to this madness. There is a process we as psychologists have to follow, and it's scientific in nature. And it's health. All of these combined, we have psychology. What kind of topics do we study in psychology? Here's a few. Brain, central nervous system. So if you're talking about biopsych, learning and memory and forgetting is very important. We would be nothing without our memory. Without the basis, the biological basis of memory, we would just be empty husks. Personality is fascinating. I can't remember if we talk about personality in Psych 1, but yeah, whatever. Next is disorders. That is something we will talk about, and it's fascinating. And like I said, I want to normalize abnormal psychology so that anything that has to do with our mental health. It's fascinating, and we all suffer to some degree with mental illness, and I'm excited to talk about it with you guys. Sensation, consciousness, development, social interactions, intelligence, thinking, and language. We'll get into more of what all these mean at a later time. I didn't want to drone on through all those, so I picked up the pace. I wanted to also let you know that psychology is the second most popular college major. I can attest to that because that was one of the things I studied. I graduated with my first degree in sociology and psychology. So I'm a stat. There we go. Anyways, look at this big graphic I found. There's a lot of professions that's where psychology is needed. Psychiatry is probably the one a lot of people first think of. So clinical psychology deals with like abnormal psych. Maybe this is somebody that gives you counseling or very intensive professional help. Next, we can go to nursing. We need mental health professionals in hospitals, for instance. Neurology, so maybe we're studying certain scans of the brain to know when somebody's having symptoms, depending on the disease or mental illness, what part of the brain is lighting up, and what can we do to fix this or help this? So pharmacology, that's something, or pharmacology, I'm sorry, that's something like what are the psychological effects of a drug? I'm not going to keep droning on through all these too, but we also have sociology. That was kind of my specialty, the social psychology. Think about sociology as we're dealing with group interactions. So with the influence of social factors, how will you act differently? Psychology is about just how will you as an individual within your own brain act. Sociology is how do all these collective brains act in the presence of others. But we have education, business, obviously. So a lot of psych majors will go into advertising because they know how the brain works. And maybe we could use that in a productive way and a not so productive way, depending on the type of advertising you get into. I don't know if you're catching what I'm laying down. Anyways, let's keep going. How do psychologists answer questions about human behavior? Well, here's the answer. They think really, really hard about it. And then we just came up with the correct answers. Nope. This is how we do it. We use a scientific method, which we will go over within this learning target. And we try to make sense of feelings, behaviors, and mental processes. So basically, what what uh what explains how I'm feeling, what explains why I'm acting the way I'm acting, and what explains why I'm thinking, the thoughts I'm thinking. This is just going to be, it's supposed to be just a really quick ed puzzle. I wish it was quicker. I'm sorry I droned on again. But before you guys bounce, I need you to respond to one thing before you go. I'm going to read all these too, and hopefully I can incorporate your questions into this class, especially because you're my only one. So you're like my little class baby. All right, it's getting weird. Let's please end this. What is one thing about the way humans act or think that you find interesting and or would like to know more about? So I gave you a couple examples. Are we born a blank slate and then we learn everything? Or are we born with a predetermined fate or way of living? Next question. Is there such a thing as ESP? If you guys don't know ESP, it's kind of like, can I tell the future? Can I read your mind? Blah, blah, blah. How can people do things like commit mass genocide and torture others? Adolf Hitler was an art major. That's all I'm going to say. Okay, so those are just a few examples of some questions that people have within the field of psychology, and these are questions that psychologists have tackled. We could, go over that later. It's very entertaining. Try to come up with your own. What's interesting to you? It could be really stupid. It could be silly. It could be really deep, and it's like a paragraph long thing. I'll love that stuff just as much. Ooh, trust me, this is my jam. Anyways, answer that question. Done with this video. Thanks for your asynchronous time, people. Goodbye.